We have got to talk now about the Lions on top of the NFC. Now, I know the Eagles are in front of them right now, but I want to say scratch the NFC North conversation. Brant, I'm calling it. We're winning it. It's done. It's over. It's over with. I know the Vikings are surging right now. Lions are going to win the NFC North. Confident in saying that. Very confident. There are two teams. You could argue three if you want to throw the Cowboys in there. I'm not going to throw the Cowboys in there. The Eagles and the 49ers and the Lions. Those are your three teams right now, with the Cowboys kind of flirting around that as well. I'm looking at the remaining schedule. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty favorable if you're a Lions fan. We talked about their remaining schedule recently, but I started after they go to 7-2. Getting to 7-2 in this league is not easy at all. I don't care how easy your schedule is. Getting to 7-2 is not easy. They're there. They're through the hardest part of their schedule. And I'm going to read you, Brant. So let's start with the 49ers. I know they've got 3 losses, right? So you got the Niners with 3 losses, the Lions right there with 2, the Eagles with 1. Well, the Eagles play the Chiefs this weekend, so there's an upcoming game here that's going to be big for them. But we'll start with the 49ers, Brant. So they're already a game behind the Lions. Their remaining schedule: Bucks, Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks, Cardinals, Ravens, Commanders, Rams. Seahawks twice, at Philly. They got to play the Ravens.
And the Cardinals now have Kyler Murray back.
And
looked pretty good.
You got it.
Good. He looked pretty good this weekend.
You got it, man. And look, that's not a cakewalk. It's not by any means. And then I went over and I looked at the Eagles' remaining schedule. You want to talk about a gauntlet? Well, it starts this weekend. They got to travel to Arrowhead. They got to play at the Chiefs. They play the Bills, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Giants. I'm just looking at their next 5 games: Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Cowboys, Seahawks. It's a gauntlet. It's an absolute gauntlet. I look at the Lions' remaining schedule. Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. You can argue the end of that schedule is sounding a little bit more challenging now, as Josh Dobbs seems to be kind of a cool story, and the Vikings look pretty good. They'll get Justin Jefferson back, but Brant, out of those 3 schedules right there, and you're neck and neck, Eagles got you by 1 game right now. Am I crazy? Talk me off the cliff here, or are you with me in saying, forget the NFC North conversation? We should be talking about the Lions playing for the number 1 seed, and I cannot stress how important that would be. I cannot stress it enough. To have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, leading into the Super Bowl, is huge. You would have to beat the Lions at Ford Field in the playoffs. Right? The preseason Lions this year felt like the playoffs. Ford Field would be insane. I'm not saying that that's a done deal, that people can't win there. They can. We know that. But that is huge if the Lions get that. Do you think that there's a real chance that they can be the number 1 seed? Because I do. And I'm dead serious. I'm not just being no, guys trying to pump people up. I think the eyes should be set on the number 1 seed. Your thoughts?
Well, obviously they're set on the 1 seed. This team is going for the 1 seed. But yeah, no, Dave, I think realistically as a fan, you should be now expecting the 1 seed. I'll even change it. I'll up the ante, Dave. I'll say you should be expecting it from this Lions team at this point with that schedule. However, you have discounted the Cowboys. I am going to put the Cowboys back in the ring because guess what, Dave? They have a head-to-head opportunity against the Lions. So if it comes down to both these teams are 13-4, well, then the Cowboys will get the nod. And don't act like the Cowboys' schedule is much tougher than the Lions. 2 games against the Commanders. They get the Seahawks at home. I understand they go to Miami and I think they go to Buffalo maybe, and then they get Philly at home. So I don't. While it is tougher than the Lions schedule. I don't think 2 games against the Commanders is out of the realm of possibility for them to win. And then they get the Panthers, right? They get the Panthers this weekend. That's an auto dub. So, Dave, I just also feel like the 2 games against the Vikings that Lions fans might be glossing over a little bit. The Vikings are going to bring it. I mean, Josh Dobbs is for real. As for real as a backup quarterback kind of stepping into that role can be, but he is a serviceable quarterback. And the Vikings are playing well right now, and we all know going to Minnesota is no easy task. So, and maybe Justin Fields plays this weekend, Dave. I don't know what his availability is. He seems to be questionable every week, whatever that means. And we'll get into that in the betting segment, I know for sure. But I will just say this. I will put the Cowboys back in. I do not like the 49ers. Something tells me that Brock Purdy is a pumpkin. I don't believe in him. I think that defense is obviously for real, but I think that Brock Purdy is going to cost them a couple games. Their schedule is tougher than both what I think the Cowboys and Lions are. Now, Philly, they're Philly. That team is going to probably win 12 or 13 games, but I think they still have to go to Dallas. That worries me a little bit. That game against Kansas City this weekend in Arrowhead, tough spot. Also, Jalen Hurts is questionable as well. I don't know if everybody's just questionable at this point or what, but it is screwing with my fantasy mind. It's screwing my fantasy lineup. It's screwing with me in every fantasy realm. But I did see that he's questionable. And if Jalen Hurts misses any times, this Eagles team is in a bad way. I don't think that this is an Eagles team that can survive without Jalen Hurts.
We saw what it looked like at the end of last year. Yeah, no, they cannot. Everybody's questionable this time of year, Brant. And I know we'll talk Lions and Bears in the betting segment, but Justin Fields is set to start this weekend, so that definitely will add an element here. Brant, before we do get into that, though, I want a twofold thing. If we are talking about the Lions at the end of the year being the number 1 seed, what is the number 1 reason why? And on the flip side of that, if they drop a couple of games that we're not expecting, or they split with Minnesota, and I don't know, the wheels fall off a little bit, why is that? So I want to know both sides of it.
Dan going for it on 4th down on his own 30-yard line like multiple times. No, Dave, I think, and you know what? I'm not gonna reach for the low-hanging fruit here. I'm not just gonna say injuries because that's the easy way out. I think it's Jared Goff not playing high-level football. I think that could really affect this team. And somebody brought up a good point that I was listening to, something that was like, people talk about Jared Goff, this and that, but cold outside Jared Goff, do we remember what that looks like, kind of? December Jared Goff. Like, I know we're getting nitpicky again, Dave, but that is a real concern for me. If this team has to go on the road in any sort of, like, if they have to go to Philly in January, do you worry about Jared Goff in that spot not being great throwing the ball and just kind of, hey, they're keying in on the run, this offensive line's struggling a little bit, and now all of a sudden we can't hit Amon-Ra wide open? Like, that does concern me a tad, Dave. And I just think that Jared Goff has everybody in the palm of his hand right now. And if he starts to get a little shaky, people might turn on him a little bit, but we haven't seen any of that. And I don't want to put that into the air, really. But I would say that's something that I'm looking for, that this season could churn a little bit if Jared Goff starts to take a little bit of a downslide.
Okay. What about if things are going well and they get the number 1 seed? What's the storyline?
Yeah, I think it's this defense, Dave. That they're able to get enough pressure, that they're able to get enough turnovers. This defense has been good. Like, it's been good. It's been timely. The Chargers game was full of lapses. It was full of bad plays. And I think that is a bit of a concern going forward. But again, the offenses that you're facing down the rest of the season, Dave, not very good. Um, so I think it has more to do with the secondary, the defensive line, just doing enough to be good. Maybe not great, but good. Top 15 good.
I think if things go well for this team, the storyline is this is legitimately a top 5 offense. We know it's an offensive league. We also know that um, offense doesn't necessarily win you a Super Bowl. We know that the defense has got. So to your point, Brant, yeah, I think the defense has got to be humming along or holding their own. But right now, the Lions' best defense is their offense, if that makes sense. I watched this game this past weekend and was blown away with the Chargers. To watch the Lions, we know the defense struggled, but to watch their offense go blow for blow, punch for punch, like they can hold their own. You got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery back there, and when that offensive line is healthy, Brant, I even think if Jared Goff regresses just even a hair, I think they're built to last. I really do. I think this offense, like I'm really bought into this offense being the real deal. Like I don't know, hot take, but like Kansas City real. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I do. I think that this offense is for real. And on the flip side, if we're talking about them kind of falling off a little bit, not locking up the 1 seed or whatever, something goes wrong at the end of the year, I think that it is this defense. I do have concerns that they're not getting home on the quarterback. I've got concerns that Hutch is not getting home. I know we keep kind of glossing over it, and QB pressures are good. They're great. We love that. They've got to get some sacks because I just don't trust this secondary right now. Especially these quarterbacks that can buy themselves time back there in the pocket or skate outside a little bit. I have real questions about this defense being able to hold up. And unfortunately, I am feeling like that top 10 defense that we saw for so long, we saw them get absolutely torched against the Chargers, absolutely torched against the Ravens. I mean, these are good quarterbacks, but it worries me. It worries me. And I think that we may, if things go off the rails a little bit, we're talking about a defense that's more like just outside top 15 level. I think that's the storyline if things go wrong here. Brent, did you have something to chime in here before we get into the bets?
Yeah, about the top 3 offense, Dave. I do have a kind of a question for you for that. Does that have anything to do with Jamison Williams or not? Or are you just placing him to the side right now and saying he doesn't exist?
Jamison Williams is impacting the game in a way I didn't expect to ever talk about him impacting the game, which is him doing the little things, which we know is important to Dan Campbell and this coaching staff. I'm looking at JMO's blocking right now more than him scoring touchdowns or being a downfield threat. I think he plays a huge part. They need JMO to play a huge part here. He's got to continue to gain the trust of Jared Goff. And when you do the little things like he did this past Sunday against the Chargers, even with the touchdown getting called back, yeah, I think that is a key storyline. If he is contributing, and you can contribute to an offense in a lot of different ways. And look, Amon-Ra St. Brown, same type of wide receiver. If your wide receivers are willing to block like those guys are, we already know who Sam Laporta appears to be. Like, yeah, man, I just think that all these pieces are coming together nicely. And I just want to say it one more time before we shift into the betting segment. The Lions are absolutely in the run for the number 1 seed. I'm shifting the goalposts here. And my goalposts have been like all along. I'm like, nope, NFC North hosting a playoff game. They're going to win a playoff game. Like I've been saying that for months. I'm shifting my goalposts even more. I think that they are absolutely in the conversation as I look at the remaining schedules here of these top teams. The Lions have a real chance to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and I am absolutely here for it. I'm not saying they're not going to lose a couple games. They most definitely will. Brant, it's the NFL. We know how this league works, and that's okay. But yeah, I'm fully in on Dan Campbell and the Lions. Go for it. And as Dan Campbell told me, wear a diaper from now on. Watching him call